The government
Not
is
broke.
broken. The
Broke.
government is
They're
broken.
broke too, but not broken.
Financially or otherwise?
Broken.
It could be either way.
Broken.
Broken.
Oh,
We're talking chips.
Charles, Charles, are you trying to get a definition that's more palatable to an answer? What definition would work best for you?
I think there are things wrong that should and could be fixed.
How?
I'm not sure whether the will to fix it is there in the government.
Ah, okay. Will to fix it, okay.
By those in power.
By those in power.
Anyone else?
By the definition of how the country was founded, I think it's broken because you know, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, everything. The idea was sovereign rights. The politicians are representing the individual. You have a right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. But they built in, and they knew people would fight, but they built in an adversarial position that would be check and balance. I think that's gotten distorted because the sovereign right has kind of been really trampled, because the fact of the matter is I genuinely believe that it's the follow the money, you know, the special interests, whatever, have much more say. And an example of this is the last election when over 50% of people said we want to get out of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. No, in Iraq, and now we're not only still in Iraq, but we're also in Afghanistan. So I think it is broke if you base it on what the original concept was, what the original sense of checks and balances and two-party system and democracy.
Yes.
I don't think, I think it's wonderful that we have this concept that the forefathers had wonderful foresight, but in fact, the sovereign rights that they were protecting belonged to basically only wealthy people. Very few people had any rights in those days, and all the people who drew up the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were people who owned land and had money, and maybe a few merchants. It worked wonderfully over a period of time, and that the concepts were very good, but I don't think they could see that far ahead and say this is going to be a wonderful form of government. It is a wonderful form, and I agree with you and the others who said it was broken, but it's broken because we don't have strong presidents anymore who are willing, well, I guess you could say Bush was strong. I'm very disappointed in Obama because all the things he said he was going to do, he's capitulated on everything. And Bill Clinton at least was smart enough to say, okay, this is the way the wind is blowing. I have to get along with the people in the other party.
James, you want to add something?
Yeah, what you said, what we're talking about is really changed because we have had empires that come and go. The last one is maybe Britain. I mean, we had the Roman Empire, Babylonian Empire, the Celtic kind of stuff. It goes around. Empires come and go. I mean, maybe America is in that state.
Aren't we an empire, James?
Well, you could call America an empire if you possibly should have weapons. So maybe.
So we're in the state of decline, just like the Roman Empire and the British Empire.
Could be.
We are.
Yeah.
John?
But that's not so bad, James.
Yes, sir.
When you asked about, like, comparing now with 20 years ago, or whatever number of years we want to go back, to me, the big difference seems to be that things are happening much faster now than they happened in the past.
Yes.
Say that. We're caught up in a whirlwind now. It's this part of the globe, that part of the globe, this part of society, that part. Everything is happening at a much faster pace than it did X number of years ago. I think that's the thing that's hard to keep up with. It's like we're inundated with information. We're on overload in so many ways right now.
Well, let me ask you all this question. We see the wars going on between the two extremes of the progressives and the conservatives. By the term, I don't like the term progressive. Liberal was fine. The term progressive to me, I explained to you, and I have to understand my personal bias, is that they don't respect individuality and self-determination. Their primary use of power is to extend control over the people in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do. It's their way of building what they consider their vision of a utopian society. My vision of heaven on earth has nothing to do with one human being asserting its will over another. But it has to do with freedom, free will being exercised responsibly, and with respect for other human beings' right to do the same thing. That somehow we learn to get along, that we learn to practice new ways of cooperation, to apply our will individually in cooperative activity, rather than just going off by ourselves and doing what we want to do. Because as our world shrinks and things happen faster, community and the ability to work cooperatively is necessary in order to respond to those situations. No longer can we go off and be by ourselves and not affect the rest of the world or be affected by it. And so that's my issue with the term progressive, because it has this connotation that there's just progressively more and more intrusion in my life. On the other standpoint, I think that it's the conservative side of it, the progressives are doing this as an absolutely natural response to what is a runaway self-determination of corporate interests or of business interests that are being exercised without respect or regard for the rights of other humans. And so they are pitted against each other in this war that is threatening to take our nation down. As each takes power, they spend more and more to bring out their plans. And when the other comes to power, they never undo what the other did. They give lip service to trying it, but they never really do it. So we just keep building bigger and bigger and bigger. So my question to all of you is, seeing the state that our government is in terms of our debt situation, our economic situation right now, and the fact that we cannot rely on going back to working for corporate America, because corporate America isn't interested in hiring high-paid Americans. They're interested in taking their work to wherever they can do it at the lowest possible amount, because they exist not for greed, but they exist to serve a different purpose than what we would like them to serve, than what the people in general would like them to serve. So the question is, how do you build a better society? How do you build a society that allows you to have individuality that is voluntarily exercised with responsibility, respect, and cooperative effort? And where those who are pursuing business are doing so not only from the standpoint of being able to generate enough profit so that they can maintain their operations, but also with the standpoint of what they are contributing to the greater society that they live in, and whether they are good corporate citizens. How do you build that kind of world without forcing it down somebody's throats?
Can I have a word on? Number one, we have to stop those wars between ourselves. And like the can of cheese, harmonize them together. And that's how the world
But it is the effort of interacting with others that shows you where to tune it within yourself.
It's the wars that within us.
If you try to sit there and just work on yourself, you will find yourself unable to work with the world around you. You will learn what to do, how to tune yourself as you interact with the others, because that will show you where you're off key. It will show you exactly what you need. Your life is the tuning fork that's going to allow you to interact with the world. So how are you going to interact with the world and not force your will down somebody's throat, but change the system so that it can serve everyone better, more harmoniously, more freedom, more equitably, more justice, more prosperity, and more peace for all.
Are you gonna run for president?
Well, at some point maybe, but not at the moment.
Can I say,
Make a good
one,
candidate.
one of the problems, I mean, I have a simple answer for that, but of course, it's nothing never that simple. One of the problems that has been, it's a big change now from 50 years ago, is that corporations, we're talking about this country, but corporations are multinational.
Yeah.
In the best of all worlds, a U.S. corporation will be concerned with what's best for the U.S. A corporation by its nature, and there's nothing wrong with this.
I gotta jump in on this. I practiced law for 30 years. I've never met a business yet that was concerned for what was best for the U.S., no matter where it was.
I agree. But
They're
here's,
they're concerned with how to maintain their business in a manner that allows it to sustain the efforts of the company.
right, and to take that one step further, it's really to maximize profits for the shareholders.
Well, that's what's necessary to
That's
sustain
what
the
a
efforts.
corporation is, right.
Yeah.
So just by nature of that, there's an automatic conflict.
Why?
Why? Because if you're a corporation and your main concern is maximizing, not profits, but maximizing profits for your shareholders, you will do anything and everything you can to do that, which means that it might be detrimental to the country, to the U.S., because that's why, you know, millions of jobs have been sent overseas. You're looking for the most inexpensive way to do it. Now, the reason I say it's different is because
It might be.
back when
And a lot of them are.
Hmm?
And a lot of them do operate that way, where they are totally, or at least appear to be in disregard of the interests of the nations that they operate in. I mean, they
well,
clean-cut forests, they pollute,
All
so
of
it's not they as in all businesses.
No, right.
Some people, some businesses do. Remember, every corporation is made up of people.
yeah, but here's the problem. They declared that a corporation was a person.
Yes.
Right?
And by
Who
doing
declared a
that,
corporation was a person?
because that's
By
like the
definition.
donations.
No, you don't understand the case.
Oh, well.
You're talking about the
Citizens United.
Citizens United case last year.
Yeah.
It did not, that had nothing to do with corporation being a person. It had to do with the case turned upon the issue of whether people could band together to try to make political speech in one form and not in another, or at certain times. And what they were doing was saying, okay, and the law that had been passed was limiting the ability of those people that wanted to speak with political terms through their corporate activities to be able to speak. Where they could, if they had a partnership, they could say whatever they wanted. If they had an LLC, they could say whatever they wanted. If they were doing it as a public union, they could say whatever they wanted. But because they were a corporation, they weren't allowed, in a corporate form, they weren't allowed to speak. And that was where the Supreme Court came down and said that the Constitution does not allow Congress to pick and choose between which groups can speak in what form and which groups cannot.
Okay.
So that doesn't.
All right,
I just want you to understand the difference.
All right, I understand. But that may have been the intent. But what does happen is that because it is that way, it's easy for executives or whatever to say it's the corporation's decision, not mine. It depersonalizes the decision. But aside from that,
Well, let me ask you this. You're the one making a decision when you go to the polls. How do you allow yourself to be influenced to make those decisions? Do you do it based upon the advertising that's put in front of you? Is that an ad what's making the decision? How are you coming to the decision? Because the Citizens United has to do with money and politics. So therefore money gives some people a louder voice to be heard.
well, that gets back to my original simple answer. that I was
Some
gonna
people
make.
don't have any money and they can't be heard. And so what they're trying to do is they wanted to level the playing field so everybody could be heard. Sounds great, doesn't it?
Sounds great.
It sounds great, except that it means that some people can speak and other people can't.
And doesn't it come out to this huge amounts of corporate money being
Well,
paid to
But
candidates?
the question is, how do you feel about somebody telling you to shut up?
Don't like it very
You don't
much.
like it.
No.
Then why should they like it? Why should they not be allowed to speak?
Now,
Because of what they
finish my
represent.
comment?
How do you know that the
Did I-
voting,
No, let's wait.
Oh, okay.
how do you know that the voting booths are not being manipulated?
Oh, we don't know that either. Oh, well, the issue, one of the big things in the '08 election was transparency. Transparency. And gee, we're getting to see what's happening. And one of the benefits of Citizens United is it was now requiring they're now requiring more disclosure, so they'll have more transparency where the money's coming from and who is doing the speaking and what the interests are behind the speaking. But what we're seeing is more and more through the technology, through the new media, not through the standard media of the big media of TV and newspapers, but the new media of the bloggers and the independent investigators and the WikiLeaks people. We are now seeing into the inner workings of our government in ways that we never did before. Now that you see this, I mean, you knew it was going on all along anyway.
No, you didn't.
You didn't? Did you really believe that they weren't doing this stuff? Tell me, come on. Have you had your head in the sand for the last 30 years?
No, but you didn't know it as a fact until
Okay.
recently.
Oh, as a fact. Okay, well, let me ask you about facts here. How many of you people believe that John Kennedy was killed by a lone gunman sitting in the clock tower, or the Texas Book Depository Tower? Did any of you believe that? No. Okay. Do any of you believe that, what was in New Mexico in 1949, where Roswell, that the Roswell was really a weather balloon? Or that Robert Kennedy was the victim of a lone gunman, Sirhan Sirhan? Or that Martin Luther King was a crazed gunman himself? He wasn't a crazed gunman, but killed by a single gunman himself. Do any of you believe this?
No.
Okay. Do any of you believe that there are questions, that our government withholds information that the people should know about?
We had panic in the streets.
All right. And do you have faith that your government is giving you the information you need to know whether the people are doing a good job or not?
No.
Okay. Now, with that said, you don't have faith in your government.
This government.
You have a major debt. You have the two parties that are keeping the whole thing in place, that are at each other's odds, that keep trying to manipulate us to get us to take sides in their battles, to allow them to continue trading power back and forth between them. Now, when you look at your government that way, why would you believe that your government should still even be standing 5 years from now if it's not serving you the way you want to be served? And if it doesn't, how would you change it?
I have a dumb question.
Oh, no questions, Don. Go ahead.
No, but mine
That's a tough question. Okay.
it's better.
What is the Tea Party?
What is the Tea Party? I don't know. I think the Tea Party is just a bunch of people that came together over a tax protest a couple of years ago, and then they started realizing that there were a whole bunch of them, and they started trying to assert their influence in the political realm, not just in the financial and economic and tax areas, but have started spreading out into more social issues. That's, I guess, how I would look at it. Yeah.
Just going back to the spirituality that we started off the discussion with, how do you relate the talk of politics with your original issue?
What was our original issue?
Why are we here?
Yeah, why are we here?
Okay. Why are we here?
What's life look?
Okay. How do I guess the question is, this is the whole. The symphony that you're part of, the systems and the systems and institutions that make up our society, that govern our common affairs, that define the structure of our common reality, is all part of your creation. Your thoughts, your allegiance to the system, your adherence to the beliefs that put it in place that they taught you as children, your payment of your taxes, and everything that you do, and you're buying from the companies that continue to act in ways that you don't believe in, all help support this system that you may or may not believe in. And I don't believe the system needs to be changed, as much as it is that we need to consciously decide how it is we are going to interact with the system, and and decide whether it serves us, and if it doesn't, assert our powers, our creative energies that we contribute to the whole to change what we can. But in changing, we should follow, what is the prayer of Alcoholics Anonymous? God grant me the power to change what I can, the serenity to accept what I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. And this is what each of us must find for ourselves. We have to find our place within the whole. The instrument of our life is contributing to that music. And so long as we're playing, if we are going to do it consciously, it's up to us to decide how and where we will play and what the role is we're going to take in interacting with these things that maintain the commonality of our system. Yeah.
How are we going to find our place within the whole when we've got fathers trying to feed their children and mothers living on the street?
Well,
how do you find your place in that whole? And it's all over, and it's going to get worse. It's
Well,
going to get a lot worse.
if you're asking me on a spiritual level, my answer would start with the same one that James has been saying about knowing yourself. Because you have to know yourself and empower yourself to create your life in a different way. And the people that are on the street, as hard as it is to accept, are there for a reason. And as hard as it may be for them, and as hard as it may be for you, it's part of your finding your place within the whole to say, well, what are these feelings inside of me? Why are they here? And what is it calling me to do? And if you're having these feelings, then you just turn around and walk away. Okay, that's okay. But if it's calling you to act, then don't sit on your hands and wait for somebody to nudge you. Act on your own inner inclinations. Laura and I never pass anybody in the street who's asking for money. If we have it, we give it. Even though what Stossel did something last week and said that some of them are earning like $20,000, $30,000 a year or more on it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good job for some of these people that aren't working. I mean, it's not good work. Yes.
But here's the frustration and the dilemma, and maybe you can help with this. I think the consciousness is rising, and I think it has been. But here's the thing that I don't know, I can't get over, is it'd be my message to young people. We have the system, we have a way of changing the system. However, when those people that we elect get into that system, something happens. They lose their sense of us, their roots.
Part of the reason that happened is because we, the people, abdicated our responsibility to require them to do our work.
We allow it to happen.
We allow it to happen. That's correct. We put them in there and say, "Oh, just take care of it. Make it go away. Let's pretend." We wash our hands of our own affairs. We think we can sit back and have nothing to do with the world that we live in. And this is the problem that I have with so much of the New Age movement, is that it's like a bunch of ostriches that stick their heads in the sand. They want to walk away from the problems of the world, and they don't want to become part of it. And the thing is, we are here part of this world. We are here not only gathering experiences, but we are contributing to the world around us. And if you feel the inspiration, the calling to help those people, whether it's somebody that you know that's on the street, that you bring them into your house, or go off and give them money, or go work in a soup kitchen to feed them, or however you do it, God bless you. Do as much as you can do. This is what it's about. This is about all of us being and feeling that connection with each other, and taking the responsibility upon ourselves to act upon the urge to expand those connections. When we feel their pain, it's hard to ignore that. But the hardest part is there's so much going on that it's easy not to feel the pain. It's like they were getting numb to it. And that's the part that we have to move beyond. We have to know ourselves. We have to learn how we create our lives. We have to be aware of how we use our will in our own lives to avoid the conflicts that we have. We also have to say, we're not going to take part in their games anymore. We're not going to take sides. And it's not a matter of being a moderate. I don't pick a side between the Democrats and the Republicans. Some of what both of them have, I agree with. They are both part of me. We have to find a way not to pick a spot in the middle and say, okay, you got to give up this and you got to give that. We have to figure out a way to embrace what each of them want and make it part of the whole. It is not about turning our backs upon one extreme or another. It's about, because those extremes are within us. It's like cutting off our left arm or our right. You have to find a way to bring it all together within you so that you can then bring it together in the world around you. And if it starts with your family, that's great. And if it goes out to your community, or you go out to your state, or your local, your federal government, or to the world, or whatever, wherever you are feel the call to have an impact, do it. And if you feel that it's calling you just to be at home and meditate and take care of yourself and honor yourself and love yourself, do that too. That's okay, but you have to listen to that voice inside of you. It is guiding you through your life, if you listen. But just don't ignore your relationship with the world around you. The world, it's how you define that relationship and how you go about it that will allow you to find peace. It will allow you to create peace in your world, to create peace for others, as well as creating it for yourself. And until you make the conscious choice that this is how you want to go about it, and that peace is as much the means as the end, then we're going to continue the fight. We're going to continue getting a system that doesn't serve us. But remember, this is all an upheaval that's coming to the surface. All these things we don't like are bubbling to the surface, and the changes are accelerating. They're happening so fast. We need to begin to look at where we want to go. And we have to be able to stand up to those that want to steer it in their direction where it's greater control or more manipulation. We have to find a way to have the freedom of the individual exercised responsibly, with respect, and cooperative action. It starts with you in your life at this moment. And it has to continue every moment of conscious thought that you have throughout the rest of your life. If you don't do this, who will? You're the ones who are awakening to the possibilities of who you are. Show it to the world you live in. Transform the world you're in. Be the change in how you go about your life and how you interact with others.
If we don't do this, what kind of world are we going to come back to?
Ah, that's exactly right. What kind of world did you leave the last time?
I hope better.
Okay. I don't have anything more. If there are no more questions, I have any
Okay,
more
I have
questions.
a question.
Yes, sir.
Would you say your body is you?
Would I say my body is me? Oh, I think in the words of John Lennon, I am he, as you are me, as you are we are all, you are me, and we are all together.
Oh, okay.
So you can take it however you like.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you.
What about the thought that we should be in the world but not of the world?
If that's how you want to define your life, that's fine. As I said, too many people use their spiritual training as a way to escape the reality of living in the world. They're discontent with it, they don't know how to cope with it, they have just been disenfranchised and disempowered, so that they just turn their back on it and walk away.
Yeah, but do you think...
And we are not of the world.
I know
We
you're
are
trying
in
to
the
talk,
world.
right?
We are in the world.
Okay, do you think this earth is a school?
I don't think it matters,
I
I think all that matters is how you want to see it, to apply it to your life. I don't want you to be taking my ideas.
No,
I want you to form your own ideas about what you, if you want to see Earth as a school, that's great. And in many regards, it is a school. But For those of us who got sick of school a long time ago, I mean, it's not really a good way, it's not really a good metaphor.
Ready to have to be a school because everything that manifests through you is manifested on the earth.
Perhaps, perhaps. I'm not going to say that that's the way it is or the way it isn't, because it doesn't matter. What matters is what you do right now in this moment.
So then why we're here?
We're here
Supposed to be.
to change you, or to stay the same, depending upon what you want for yourself. So the question I will leave you with is, what do you want for yourself? What do you want for your
Which self we're
world?
talking about?
What do you want for your world?
No, which
You
self?
are here for a reason at this time and place. I'm not going to get into giving you answers on spiritual questions. It's immaterial. It's totally irrelevant.
No, do we have a higher self and a lower self?
Who cares?
Okay.
What matters is, what are you going to do right now? How are you going to treat the person that's sitting next to you? Especially if she doesn't do something the way you like, or vice versa. I mean, if you guys argue, or if the kids don't, do you have kids?
Why
If they don't do what you want.
Why should I worry about her if I don't have peace and love?
You're going to have to answer that one for yourself. I don't know. Why should you? Why should you? Maybe because you got to live with her.
No.
Well,
This
you
is
choose.
a question. This is a question. A very pertinent question.
It may be a pertinent
Because
question, but my answer, James, I'm trying to tell you that it doesn't matter what I think. I don't have to have an opinion. If I do have a belief about it, it's irrelevant.
Okay.
What matters is what you believe. It's your reality. You're creating it. And you are contributing to the common reality based upon your beliefs and your emotions and what you do in your life. And it's how you choose to go about it that matters.
Okay.
I'm choosing to contribute by trying to change the consciousness and the activity of people, to give them more of a choice of their reality, of what they get from it and what they put into it. What you decide to do with it is up to you. That's why we're here. That's why you are in a separate experience from me. You have the choice of what to do with it. So I don't want my belief to influence you. It's not that I don't have a belief. I just don't want it to influence you. I respect your right, and for me to say it may change yours or somebody else who's listening and say, oh, I should believe that. Gee, that makes sense. I don't care what you believe.
But I don't have one.
Good. That's great.
I don't have
That's
a
great.
belief.
You don't have to have a belief.
I don't have one.
Question. When you start changing your beliefs, what do you believe? What do you choose to believe? Believe in, if you have to believe in anything, believe in one power, in one presence. Believe in infinite possibilities. Believe that what is unknown in one moment can be known in any other moment. And what is known is not all there is. There's always more. Therefore, what you hold for your beliefs will allow you to create in your world, create in this world, and create within yourself. If you choose to have no beliefs, then you will create in that way. But whatever you choose to believe, know that there's no right and wrong, because there's always more than what you believe. And what you see and what you believe is a function of where you are and how you're looking at it. And if you're standing over here, it may not look the same.
Because of change.
And then when the change will make it to change, will change the way you look even more. Everything is within your control. You are creating this life. So I ask you, and I'll leave you with the same question we started with. Why are you here? What are you going to do with it now that you know? Thank you all.
Thank you.